And welcome. At least Easy is here. Mr. Chris Allen's run a little behind, but, as professional as I can be, I want to try to get close to 10 o'clock. So I told him I'd start this bad boy and, chat a little amongst myself. And hey, I talk to myself all the time. This isn't that hard. Now, if it's interesting to you, that might be the hard part. But, hey, it's what I do. But it is a Wednesday night, 10 o'clock. Lenny Melly, FantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. And, this is the Fantasy Sportscast, where tonight we're going to be doing here, when Chris gets here later in the show, part 3 of our 96-part series on setting up and commissioning and managing the perfect fantasy football lineup, or league, which I know you baseball people out there, just love. I know you people out there at Lenny make fun and have a hard time dealing with us football guys. I'm a both guy. I do the baseball thing. I'm not George Smart. Appreciate George out in the chat room earlier. He was updating us that the Cubs are getting Kimball, it looks like. Kimball, 3 years, $43 million. So based on George's email, I just happen to have a little thing up on the web. I didn't see that under the news where I'm at, so I don't know if that's 100% confirmed. The details George gave, I'd say that it is. That Kimball will be a Cub. And as a Reds fan, I'm not happy. I wish he'd have gone somewhere else. I don't own him in any fantasy leagues either. So I'm not too, he doesn't help me there. I mean, there's definitely an opportunity for saves. I don't know. Be curious when he starts, when he starts actually playing. George, I didn't see that you put that in your post on the website. Are they expecting him to start pitching right away? It's going to take him a week or so. I think I saw rumors for Keuchel that if he gets signed, he'd be ready in about a week to go to a team and start, doing his thing. Rumors there's Yankees. Now, I do have Keuchel on a couple fantasy teams, so I've picked him up and held on to him in a couple leagues where I would, have been doing okay, so I thought I could afford the spot because on both of those leagues, I can't say I punted pitching. I just didn't go pitching heavy early. So any little area where I can pick up a pitcher or tweak things or do something like this, like I said, luckily I've creeped along enough that I'm competitive, and so it hadn't really hurt me keeping on the bench. So hopefully he comes back here soon. Love to get him with the Yankees and love to get the wins. I'm looking for wins from him, not necessarily anything else. So, I don't want him to totally kill my percentages, but I'm not a heavy percentage squad right now anyway in my pitching. But wins and strikeouts. I know he's not a big strikeout guy, but give me 5 to 7 strikeouts in an outing and give me a win. I'll take that. So, that's kind of where I'm going on that. Like I said, we're waiting on Chris. I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm gonna bring up a quick baseball/football topic because it has something to do with last night, and then I saw more on it today, and that's the nickname Tom Terrific. Baseball people, especially in New York, even some Reds, because Mr. Seaver was a Red for a while at the end of his career. But the baseball people are all, pretty much, saying no, Tom Terrific is Tom Seaver, that, no one else should have that nickname. But Mr. Brady is coming out, and I guess I've read a few things that he's going to even go for a copyright, and if he has to go to court, that he could copyright Tom Terrific. I find it amusing because I don't care. It's a nickname. We looked it up last night. There's multiple people that have the same nickname. I don't think you can own. I think it's funny that, which is the different in times now versus the 70s. With Tom Seaver, I'm assuming if the times were different in the 70s, Tom Seaver would have copyrighted it. But I don't think back then people thought that far in advance or thought about it. Where now you have Tom Brady, actually looking to copyright so that he can be the only one that uses that, which I think is a little crazy. I think it's crazy that somebody, can copyright a nickname that was just given to him by people. I don't think Tom Seaver gave himself the Tom Terrific nickname. So I'm not sure how or why, it's that big a deal. But then I don't think Tom Brady gave it to himself either. It's just something that came out, and I'm sure, he's written, he'll write it and all that. But copyrighting it so the next guy can't use it or fighting it in court, I think's actually pretty funny. Now, that being said, I was curious. I saw both careers in my lifetime. Tom Seaver was a great, great pitcher, Hall of Famer. But yes, I know JR hates Tom Brady. JR hates Tom Terrific. But when it comes to careers, did Tom Seaver's career, does it hold up to a Tom Brady career? I mean, if we're going to go by numbers and if we're going to go by what they accomplished and decide who gets to keep a nickname based on that, well, I got to say, Tom Brady, in my mind, would win that battle. I mean, if I was the judge and I had to make a decision and, is it firsties? Did Tom Seaver get it first so he gets to keep it? I'm guessing somebody before Tom Seaver was called Tom Terrific. I'm guessing some kid in math class that was, really good at algebra. Somebody probably said, hey, you know what? Tom Terrific, you're terrific at math. But if we're just going by the numbers, J.R. Slice's favorite quarterback, I think, would win, right? I mean, if anyone's going to keep a nickname, Tom Terrific, wouldn't you have to give it to the guy that's accomplished the most? Tom Sawyer, Tom Shady. I know there's a lot of Tom names out there. Is he nicknamed? Is he, is he copywriting the term the GOAT? I'm assuming that's, probably something he can't do. And George, I know I make fun of George and it's about his bedtime. George said he is getting ready for bed. And yes, Darvish, I was watching a game. It's the sixth inning. I have Darvish. Sixth inning, he's given up no runs. He's doing pretty well. He's had a few strikeouts. I walk out. I come back after half inning, and he's given up 3 runs. And I'm like, man, in fantasy, it just turns that quick. You're so excited that your guys are doing something special. And I mean, it's not that he's going to have a terrible night. 7 innings, 8 strikeouts. Oh, wait a minute. Were those unearned runs? No. They're saying I was reading the wrong line. Okay, he pitched 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, and is going to have a ERA of over 5 tonight. So that's annoying. That's annoying after someone goes, into the 6th and hadn't given up any runs, and then in the 6th gives up a couple. 7 pitchers today, and 6 have sucked. I had 3 going today. I hadn't had any pitchers going all week. I had 3 today. And so far, not terrible. 15 innings, 15 strikeouts, a 5 ERA, which that's the bad part. And my Whipple won. Craig Stamen, he killed me. He gave up. His ERA was over 20. Came Kevin Gausman right now, ERA is over 16. I don't even know if he's still in the game. That's he's only in the second inning. That's terrible. You're right. Some nights in fantasy, you just wanna quit. You want to just enjoy a game once in a while. That's I know people make fun of fantasy players and get upset. JR is one of those. We get upset when players that are out of it stop playing. You're doing well, or you're not doing well. Things aren't going that great. You're 8 weeks in. You know what? You're still doing your stuff, and you realize you haven't got a shot, and you quit. Unfortunately, sometimes that's the best time when you go, thank God. You know what? I've sucked up anyway. I'm glad I'm folding my tents now. I'm sick of it. Now I can just watch games. I know. I don't do that either. It's hard to do that. You have to have respect for the other players and all that and set your lineup and all that. But, man, it is nice to know when you're done sometimes. We get all excited, for draft time. We get all excited, for the season and, all that. But you know what? Weeks 10, 12, 14, 18, close to the, all-star game. And, part of you is like, oh, man, I'm glad I'm out of it. I quit worrying about it. But don't you worry, JR. I'm not out of it. I'm there. The Fantrax guy. I love that. The Fantrax guy is running behind. He texted me, a little, right at 10 o'clock and said he's running behind. But me being the professional I am, decided I'll get in here. And, he said he'd be a few minutes. Well, now we're 15 minutes in. But, I can talk for a few minutes. I don't have a problem with that. I did miss the Rosses last night. Obviously, they were holding out for tonight. I missed, I shouldn't say that. I missed Beth on the round table last night. JR, he just, drinks and bitches and moans. But, I did miss, half of the Ross family. So that's the big thing. Tom Terrific. I don't know. Maybe a poll up there. Is Tom Terrific Tom Seaver? Or is Tom Terrific Tom Brady? And what's the criteria? So, let me know if you're in the chat room. It's a baseball chat room, so it's probably maybe a little unfair, but I'll be curious. I'm back. I'm voting Tom Brady just because he's also going to be a Hall of Famer, but his stats are definitely a tad better than what Tom Seaver had. So that's where I'm going. So the chat room, Beth fell asleep, and JR is fetching Beth a beer. I like that. That's good. Thanks for coming out tonight. The other thing that we talked about last night, and somebody said something to me. I was just curious, how everybody talks about amateurs, the minors and all that. But then when we talk about college, the college baseball championships, a lot of baseball people say, I talked to a couple today because of the show last night, and a few of them just mentioned that they don't watch it. It's young kids. It's, they're not paid. They're out there for the love of the game, in air quotes. It's just, is it professional grade baseball? No, but it's some very skilled players. Obviously, there'll be some of the best teams, in college in the country. And I enjoy watching it. I guess part of me, we'll never know. I'd be curious if you took, you always hear about this in basketball, how would the NCAA championship basketball team do against, the worst NBA team? Or how would the national championship football team do against the Cleveland Browns? It was never the worst team. It was just how would they always do it against Cleveland Browns? And I guess it'd be the same thing. I'm assuming the college baseball champions for the NCAA couldn't compete, in Major League Baseball, but I'd be curious how a team like that would compete with a single A or double A team. I don't even know if, I would assume it even single A would be hard for them. That it would be, the competition, again, even in single A is probably, and again, I watch single A baseball pretty, fairly often here in the Dayton area because we have the Dragons. And this year I didn't make it just because the way things happened here in the spring. I didn't get to any college baseball here, but I've usually every year try to get to one Wright State game and maybe one UD game because I work down in that area. But yeah, the competition level when I watch the Dragons play versus watching college, I don't notice that big a difference. So I don't really know how it really compares. I'm sure scouts would tell you that there's probably a bigger difference, but both seem to be quality baseball. For as far as local ball goes for me. So I enjoy that. But we are joined tonight by finally the one show where I'm like, we're going to go right to it. We're going to get right into the meat. We're going to get to the meat because this 96 episode series, if we don't get it over eventually, we won't be able to set up a league because we won't have the rules down by then. So,
and we need that.
And we do need that. That. Welcome, Mr. Chris Allen.
How we doing?
I did come on here. I killed 20 good minutes, so we can get right into it.
So that's like halfway through until we actually get to the main topic of the show.
All right. Maybe. I tell you, tonight was going to be the night.
We're just going to hop right into it.
We were going to.
And I ruined it.
I already jumped into a little bit of the news of the night because I jumped into the baseball/football thing because we have more baseball people in the chat room. And that was who is the real, would the real Tom Terrific please step forward?
Okay.
And that is who deserves the nickname Tom Terrific? Is it Tom Seaver? Which baseball people would say he's had that since the 70s and he's a Hall of Famer. Or is it Tom Brady, who now is copywriting it and, making that officially his name. So that we already talked about that, but your quick opinion.
It's a generational thing.
Okay. My point is, though, just answer the question. Who would you give it to? Let's say you don't know the players.
Uh-huh.
Does the guy who would get it, would you give it to the guy who had it first, or do you give it to the guy that has the most, the best numbers? Who, if you're a judge, and those are the two criteria you have to, decide which one. And again, take the players out of it. If you just had to say, okay, we got to give a nickname to somebody, do we give it to the guy who had it first, or do you give it to the guy who had the best career numbers?
No, I'll give it to the guy who had it first.
Yeah, but if you'd have been here, my argument against that, I thought that at first.
Okay.
The problem I have is last night on the roundtable we did a nickname show actually, and there's a lot of doubled up nicknames. I mean, there's a lot of people that use nicknames because sometimes they're just giving them to them at as kids. They just get them. I'm assuming Tom Terrific, if we did enough research, wasn't the first. He was probably just the first that was that good of a player. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's that memorable. So he's the first as in being memorable, but probably not the first. Meaning he didn't come up with it, which is why he didn't copyright it. Plus in the 70s, no one thought about that shit. So, I'm just saying, I don't really care personally, but I go with the numbers. If I'm just a judge, I'm like, you know what? Because my point would be 50 years from now, those people are going to sit around and go, oh, Tom Terrific, that was Tom Brady, and he's got 6 Super Bowls. I mean, I just think it's going to flow that way anyway. So
I can see that. Yeah.
So that was where I leaned.
Yeah.
A couple quick notes, before we move on to our topic, which is episode 3, part 3. We'll get into our league settings. This happened, your opinion, because I have been saying all along that Zeke Elliott had the least downside right now of top running backs.
Yes.
So the two things that happened in the last week or so, to me, affect some of that. One, they've pretty much come out now and said Todd Gurley will not be a workhorse, which Todd Gurley was who a lot of people were picking even ahead of Zeke Elliott. But the other thing that did come out last week is Zeke Elliott got arrested and then unarrested in the same night because he was pushing around, some usher guy, which I've seen the video multiple times.
He bumped him. He just gave him a little,
Bumped him. Yeah. Unfortunately, probably good for him. I think the actual push happens off camera. I don't know. Have you seen the video?
Yes, I've seen it.
He kind of nudges him, but he goes out of camera just enough. You can tell that Zeke makes another motion, but you don't see the motion.
Yeah, he could have been trying to stop him from falling.
Okay, right. All right, I got you.
He could have been.
He was trying to grab the guy's beer so it didn't spill, or help him so his cap doesn't fall.
Sure.
I don't think that's what happened.
Maybe. We don't know.
We don't. But I do think this does put a little, unfortunately, he already has a few X's in his career.
Yeah.
When we're talking 3 strikes, he kind of has 1.5 strikes already. Some people might say 2 strikes, but he has maybe 1.5. So, this isn't good for him. I mean, it's back to if you're going to take a running back, number one,
you want certainty.
I know, and that's exactly what I've been saying. Mm-hmm. And to me, up till this point, Zeke was the certainty, and now that's a problem. Todd Gurley to me doesn't have certainty anymore. Right. Zeke Elliott doesn't have certainty anymore.
Right.
I'm now going to go. You know what? I think I'm going to go with Washington. I'm going with Adrian Peterson because he's telling me he's going to get 2,000 yards. So I'm just going to pick Adrian Peterson number 1 and the heck with it.
Yeah.
Are you excited that he's come out and said he's going to run for 2,000 yards?
I mean, I'm excited. Is it going to happen?
Right.
I don't know.
Hey, you got to give the guy a little. Now, again, he obviously did better than everyone thought last year.
Oh, for sure.
And you got to give the guy a little. He's confidence isn't something he's ever lacked.
Oh, that's definitely true.
So I just thought that was funny. That like I said, the running back thing now. So let's say you take the Zeke thing serious. And you really are. I think you have to take the Todd Gurley thing serious because his coach has even come out and said.
Yeah.
So who are you moving either one of those two down your running back, or who right now is your top running back?
For me right now, my top running back is either Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara. One of the two. Those are my two. Those are my guys.
I don't have a problem with either of those, especially in our league, which is a PPR league we're putting together. I'd have trouble taking either one of those number 1, though. I mean, that's the problem. Are they number 1 pick worthy running backs? Meaning if you have the number 1 pick, that's a hard one to pull. They both could be good number 1 players, but are they 1-1 type players?
CMC for sure for me. Kamara, I think, would be something of a reach. I'd feel more comfortable with Kamara.
I don't know. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know. I like I said, I still think right now I'd gamble on Zeke. But
I don't see why not.
Right. If I had the number 1 pick and I decided to go running back, that would be my, I think I'd still do that. And probably, to be honest, I would probably even take Gurley over those two. Okay. I don't know. Gordon's probably not necessarily there. I don't know. And who do you have as your number 1 wide receiver right now? Do you have DeAndre Hopkins as number 1?
Yep.
Is there any way at all you could take him in the number 1 pick?
No.
You still think one of these running backs has a better opportunity or a better shot?
I think so, because a lot of them have both all of those guys. So even if you take CMC,
even McCaffrey has a lot of changes on his team. I mean,
like what?
Oh,
nothing. Other than if you think Cam's playing with a bum shoulder.
Cam, no, you know what? Never mind. I'm thinking Jaguars.
Yeah.
You're right. I'm thinking Jaguars, not
no, they're fine.
not the Panthers. Yeah, okay, you're right. I had my crazy, what do they call those add-on teams that have only been in the league for like 6 months?
Right.
I had them mixed up. J.R. Slice, he was making fun earlier about us being PPR people, but
What's wrong with that?
we are going to jump in. Are you messing with your green screen?
Of course.
All right, you're getting there. You must not have got new lighting yet. Get your
Not
lighting,
yet.
Chris. All
Not
right.
yet.
Trust me, I've been where you are right now. There is not enough knobs for you to adjust. Well, there you go. See, if you take the white off, you're good.
That was a little bit better, right?
There you go. Yeah, it's just because that white is
It's like
picking up reflection.
It's
right.
very hard to get the white, so I figured that's what it was.
Right. See, and I have I went just with the basic black tonight.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we've been. This is our series. We're on
Part three.
Part three.
Yeah.
Of the perfect league, and we are getting a little bit of controversy on some of our decisions.
Ooh.
So we are getting some,
Controversy.
some uproar, But I feel obligated. Probably not. I feel obligated to go down what we've already decided. That's why I knew we had to start a little bit earlier because we took up 10 minutes talking about what we already talked about. But for all those new listeners we get every week, I want to make sure they're in the know. I want them to be in the know. So what we've come up with so far for the perfect fantasy football league /league settings /commissioner settings, I don't even know what you technically want to call them.
Right.
We have decided it needs to be a 10 to 12 player league.
Yep.
Preferably 10 players if it's a competitive league with more or less, industry type players.
Yep.
And if it's a home / mixed league, you have to have at least 12.
Yes.
So that's the first controversy I got last week. Someone said no way would he ever play in less than 12, even in a competitive league.
10-man league wouldn't do it, huh?
No, but here's the problem I had. It was his reasoning I struggle with.
Okay.
The reasoning was he preferred the tough decision making be during the draft, which a 12 or 14-man league brings, versus the weekly decision that a 10, maybe up to a 12-person league gives. Our whole point is, and I get it, there are draft people out there. There are people that they go 6 months without football, and they're riding that stroke all the way. That draft day is all they care about. I mean, that's me. That's their okay, but that doesn't make it right. I'm sorry. One day versus 13 decisions to me is not a good reason to not go 10. I want to mentally be in the game every week, and I want my other players in my league. I'm just a big believer in the more decisions that have to be made during the season is the more opportunity for mistakes and more opportunity for the person who's doing his homework to win and less luck involved. So I get some arguments why you would want 12 and not 10, but the argument of 1 week / the tough decisions during the draft versus the tough decisions every week, I don't think that's a good. I don't buy that argument at all.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess I see what you're saying, but if that's their preference, if they find the draft experience more important than the weekly setting lineups and that decision making, then that's their preference.
It's a preference. It just doesn't make it right. That's all. I mean,
it doesn't make making 13 decisions each week right.
So we're trying to come up with the perfect league, and in the perfect league, I feel in the perfect league, you need as many decisions as possible to put pressure on the owners. That's all. If otherwise, we could just play, draft and forget, or best ball. I mean, that's my point. I mean, there are settings for people who like to draft.
Sure.
I'm trying to set up a league where you have to make decisions every week. I don't know.
If that's the goal, then I agree. Then that's the way it should be set up.
Then I'm going to keep going with the argument. Why wouldn't that be the goal if you're setting up the perfect league, which is what we're doing? We're not setting up the perfect draft day. We're not setting up the perfect, playoff system, even though that'll be later. We're setting up the perfect league. And to me, I just don't buy it at all. I just think you need as many decisions as possible in a good league.
As many decisions as possible. Okay. But then at the same, I guess my counter argument to that would be that if you make it too difficult, because we talked about the fact that we wanted a mix of hardcore players and also casual players. So if you're putting the screws to a lot of the casual players, you're going to, they're not going to be as inclined to want to play in a league like that.
Okay. And unfortunately, we've tried to do this where we're kind of walking the guidelines of, okay, you could do this for this league and that for the other. I understand that. I understand that
playing devil's advocate
in a 12-person home league. I agree, and that's why I agreed. I think if you have a home league / family league and you're trying to make it as good as possible, I would say 12 to 14 is what you want.
Right.
And I get that. But I just struggle with which I'm hoping in the way this league is maybe going to turn out, because we did get multiple people ask about how can I get in your guys' league if you decide to do this. So to me, this league could end up being industry / competitive. So to me, that weekly decision should be part of the game. So
I think so.
So that was the first controversy. So, and that was our first setting. Then we decided you have to use one of the top sites, one of the top apps.
ESPN, Yahoo, something like that.
Because it has to be accessible and be fairly easy to use. But we've decided not to pick which one yet, because we need to make sure it adapts to the other settings we want.
Okay.
We kind of decided that pretty much we needed the $50 to $100 range as a minimum buy-in. Now, like I said, that could be relative. We understand some home leagues might want to do $30 or $20, and that could be a big buy-in for a bunch of 15-year-old kids that have never played before or something like that.
That could be a lot, sure.
But back to the standard people, people that have done this a while and all that, $50 to $100 puts enough pressure on them where they're going to keep playing.
Yep.
We also come up with, we're pretty sure we would like the idea of some weekly payouts where there's some reasons to play every week, so that there's some kind of a, compensation for some kind of a point system, that we'll get to later. We decided the format would be PPR. So then we decided if we did the 12-team league, we'd have one quarterback, one super flex. If we were doing a 10-person league, we were going to do 2 QBs. So then the next thing was 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 standard flex, which can be a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, Agreed. 1 kicker, 1 defense.
Yep.
And we kind of said in a very competitive league, if you did away with kickers and defense, I could understand that.
Sure.
I think in a home league, those are more decisions people have to make, and that, again, puts a little more pressure. And, again, I think the home league people, they like having what looks like a real football team.
Right.
So that's where we're at. So 2 things. Let me go to something that we missed last week when we were deciding some of the things. And this will be quick. Are you a trophy person for your league? To be the perfect league, do you need to have some hardware? Or is it just strictly money? Are we just, the perfect league is just, hey, you won, here's your 100, here's your 500, here's your 800, whatever the payout is. Or does the perfect league need something where the winner of that can, he has something to put up on that little fireplace, area? I mean, how important is it hardware-wise for the perfect league?
If it's the league like we're talking about, where it's like not even a hardcore league, but a league where a lot of the people are going to be returning, then I think something like a trophy, or I've seen like the guy that won the Scott Fish Bowl last year, Sam Lane, He got like one of those like WWE belts or whatever.
And Kevin in Hawaii, he typed that before you said it in the chat room.
I mean,
he thinks that needs to be a belt. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Agreement. I think the perfect league, and I also think hardware buys in players for the next year. You know, money goes away, but that hardware, and I think especially if you commit to decent hardware, and maybe even commit to, etch my name on that bitch. 10 years from now, I want someone to say Easy Kill won back then, or, Chris Allen won that year. I think you invest a little bit early on in the league and you make up a piece of decent hardware and you commit to it. So I agree. I just know I had it penciled down last week and we didn't get to that. And to me that actually was supposed to come before we went to the other players. So that's where we're at so far. So to me, the next thing we need to decide, and to me, this can be another area, and J.R. Slice is out there too, right? J.R. Slice is also saying in his favorite league, there is a trophy also. So I agree. I think a trophy is important. Yeah. Now, I don't know. I've never played in a league that has hardware. Mm-hmm. So how do you finance the hardware early on in the league? Do you take some of the original payout money for that trophy? Do you have everybody kick in or a little extra the first couple of seasons? I've never done it, so I don't even know. Obviously, I don't think it's fair to just say, "Hey, the commissioner needs to go out and spend an extra $100 and buy a trophy." But is that the way it normally is? It just kind of divvied out in the original, buy-in to get started with.
Yeah, you pony up. So let's say the dues are $50, and then you would tack on an extra 10, and that would just be set aside for trophy funding.
So they give you $100 to $120 to buy the hardware.
There
and as long as everybody knows that up front,
it'd be $60 for the first year, but then every year after that, it's $50.
Right. Now, JR saying, bragging rights have always been a big deal, and that's right. In my home league, it's just bragging rights and money, but it is nice to have that hardware. So the next thing we need to talk about then is the bench. And this number varies a lot in different leagues. Mm-hmm. And this might be one that's hard to even decide on because I'm not sure I know what's the best thing. And back to, if you're starting the league and obviously you're just at the beginning of the league and you're setting it all up, you could maybe talk to people. But I think this could sway also the difference of a home league and maybe not. This might be one of those, maybe I'm overthinking it, but how many bench spots do you think is important? And to me, I think bench spots to me is what can affect, the draft a little bit, because the day of the draft, if you have a bigger draft, if you have a bigger bench, then obviously there's a lot more people that are going to be drafted later. So there's a little more research on those players,
right?
Which in a more competitive league, to me, could be more important.
Sure.
But at the same time, a small bench means you have more activity. People have to be dropped. You can't hold people.
Right.
So again, it's back to decision making. Do you want that decision making during draft day, or do you want that decision making to be put across the whole season? And the reason it sounds like I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, because I just said I like the idea of decisions being made every week.
Right.
But that's also the reason that I like the 10-person league, so that you make start sit a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
But I actually think if you do that, having the bigger bench kind of helps promote that also. Because when you have that bigger bench, you have to make, you have more decisions because you're drafting more players. So you have to know some of those more, less relevant players. But at the same time, when the season starts, when you have that big bench and you only have 10 owners, you really got to study all your players. So my quick thought would be a bigger than normal bench if you're going to have a league of 10. And I'd be getting in that 5 to 7 range. I've seen leagues that only have benches of like 3 players. And they do that because now you do truly have to be, but my problem with 3 people is there is no start sit option because you just, you only have 3 people to choose from.
Yeah.
What do you think? In the perfect league, based on some of the stuff we've already discussed, what size of a bench do you think would make it an interesting or keep the league active?
If it's let's say we had either 2 choices, like a 10-team league or a 12-team league. If it's a 10-team league, I'd be fine with a 5 to 6 man bench. And that would also, and on top of that, I would include at least 1 IR spot. Now, if
I have that next to talk about IR.
And then if it's a 12-man league, then I would lean more towards the 6 to 7 range, just to incorporate a few more players. Then also on top of that, I would still keep the IR spot.
So you said 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Both times, didn't you? Did I miss something?
5 to 6 for 10.
Okay.
6 to 7 for 12.
6 to 7 for the 12. So you actually think in a 12-man league, your bench should be even bigger.
Yep.
So you're definitely getting way down in the draft pick. My problem with that, if you have 12 home league type players and your bench is that big, they're drafting people they have no clue at the end of the draft. That's some of the problem.
Right. But we also talked about, if we're including Superflex, that's less of a chance that you're going to be drafting fourth string wide receivers or rookies that people don't necessarily think are going to have a ton of snaps in the upcoming season. Right.
We are a lot of activity in the chat room. First of all, Kevin agrees to $10 extra for the trophy. All
fair.
I think he's saying 6 players on the bench and then 2 IR spots. Beth Ross says it's definitely the size of your bench matters. I think I agree. It is the size of your bench. Then JR is saying 5 to 6, and he is saying 3 DL or IR. I think baseball went to the DL. I think baseball calls it, or football still calls it the IR.
Right.
I just think I said 5 to 7. It seems like the number 6 everyone is using. So
somewhere in there, that's the right range.
I think 6 is the number. I think if we're going to put a number to it, we're going to say 6.
Okay.
So now the option is the IR spot. Do you think just 1? So I get why some leagues do none. And I also, JR in there said 3. I have seen where people do big ones. So, they never have to cut an injured player. I have played in leagues with no IR, and I've played in leagues with 1. I've never played in unlimited or anything bigger than that.
I've done up to 2, and I think that's about right, to be quite honest with you.
I think if you get more than 1, again, you're eliminating the league having to make moves. Sometimes you just have to drop a hurt guy, that you just can't hold on to. I think you're forcing some play, which is maybe the only thing I would question would be, do you think, because we said between 5 and 7 on the bench, and we kind of settled on 6, would you rather just have a bench of 7 and no IR? Or do you think 6 with an IR or 5 with 2 IRs?
I think 6 with an IR, just because with the way that the NFL now looks at injuries with the IR designated to return, and even then that still gets kind of murky in terms of the player's ability to even meet that schedule. It'd be hard to hold on to that player for the minimum 6 weeks that you have to just for the IR designated to return. And then on top of that, then have to say, well, am I going to have to keep him, or is he just really not ready to go? Am I going to have to drop him or whatever? So I think at least 1 IR spot in order to deal with that, I think is fine. I think if this was 4 to 5 years ago when they didn't have that IR designated to return, I would be fine with just having the extra bench slot and no IR. But with the way they have the new rules set up, I think you have to be able to account for that.
So you think 6 and 1?
6 and 1 would be fine.
6 and 1. I kind of agree with that. Now, the only thing I will question, I think in competitive league, I'm fine, 6 and 1. Home leagues, now again, I think even the home league we're talking about, we're assuming a majority of the players are players or owners or people who have played. I've noticed in home leagues, there's always a couple of people that have no clue what the IR spot is and they never use it.
Right.
Where if it was just a bench spot, they would. So,
Yes.
I could see maybe in a home league you might just do 6 or 7 bench and not even do the IR because it's just confusing to some of those people.
True.
And if you're trying to make the perfect league and a league where people understand, then I would have no problem if you did it the other way. If you just said a home league you would do 7 and no IR,
yep.
I could live with that. So I'll give that. Now the only thing, and I think I have a thing where probably 8 weeks from now, when we really get into the nitty gritty of all these settings, I have a little area where we're going to discuss what I'll call unique rules or unique, settings, what
bonuses and all that.
Really not settings, more like league rules. And to me, the IR spot, because it became a big issue with my major league last year, and that's my IR spot. I would definitely designate that it is only eligible for players that are injured. Obviously, ESPN, in my opinion, screwed up last year, and Le'Veon Bell was on the IR available the whole season, and to me, it was BS. Even if people drafted him without knowing, tough. There was no point last year in the season where you drafted Le'Veon Bell without knowing there was a chance. Right. So if you were willing to take that, knowing that you weren't going to get to use him. And the fact that then ESPN let you put him on the IR, I thought that was asinine. So my perfect league is going to have a rule that the injured reserve spot is for injured reserves.
Sure.
Not people that are negotiating, not people who are sitting out.
What about players that are suspended?
That was the next thing. See, that was the argument that then kind of came up.
Mm-hmm.
I would have no problem if we knew going in that if a player gets suspended, that he would not be eligible for that spot, because to me that it's back to what we just talked about at the beginning of the show, or the beginning of your show tonight. That if you draft Zeke Elliott now, I would say now there's a little possibility that I think this has kind of died in a week, so it's not that big a deal. But it is. The problem is it's Zeke. Right. He could do something else stupid and get suspended. Which again, if you know that rule going in, that a suspension or any dispute, you cannot use the IR spot, then you just have to know that ahead of time.
Sure.
I kind of think I agree with you. I think IR spot should be injured reserve only, and suspended players just have to take a spot on your bench.
I think that's fair, because it's nothing.
It's really hard to cut Zeke Elliott. If he gets an 8-game suspension and you drafted him, let's say you're drafting number 1. And 3 weeks in, he gets 3 weeks. Let's say 3 weeks in, he gets an 8-game suspension. You'll still get him back for the playoffs, roughly, if you do the math. So it would be hard to cut him, but it's also going to be hard to hold him on your bench maybe for 8 weeks.
Right.
But it's also trade bait. Also if you can hold on to him for as long as you can, and when you can't anymore, you find the guy who started out 3-0 or 4-0 that could go, I can afford to set Zeke on my bench and have him in the playoffs. So, I think you have options there, but I agree. IR stands for injured reserve. I agree, Kevin. Not suspended and not holdouts, but ESPN. And last year I only played in ESPN in my, what I'll call my 5 money leagues. Yeah. I played in a Yahoo league where it was for free, but the Zeke Bell thing, I never paid attention because I kind of was out of that league pretty early, so I didn't pay that much attention. So I don't know if in Yahoo or CBS, if they allowed Le'Veon Bell to be IR'd or not. But ESPN, I don't remember seeing that on Yahoo. ESPN obviously did. Yeah. So I'm just saying that might be one of those, and again, the commandments. I don't know. There's a word for it, in leagues where you have your set
bylaws.
Hold on. Bylaws.
Yeah.
Chris, 49 minutes in, dazzled me again. I'm writing that. Dazzled me again. Bylaws. You do a show. You've got this down. And JR keeps calling you the Fantrax guy. Hey, where's the Fantrax guy tonight? I heard that. So all right. So I can live with that. obviously we got, and I really did plan on starting a tad early today because I thought we'd start getting into scoring. I know. If I didn't harass you, though, would it be any fun?
No, probably not.
I just don't know now that that we have 10 minutes. That I think scoring is going to require more than 10 minutes because there's a lot of things.
There's a lot of ways you can
right.
discuss that.
So we're going to skip scoring, and maybe. So first of all, is there any other roster thing that you would want to bring up at this time? I mean, we have the roster sizes now. We have the starters and the number of positions we're starting. Yep. We have our spot marked. Is there anything else you can think of roster-wise that would need to be, put down as a bylaw, which I kind of was saving for later, but while we're here, if it comes up, is there anything else you can think of roster-wise that needs to be considered?
No, not that I can think of. I think we've hit everything.
Okay, then we're gonna roll back around. Then, in the perfect league, how do you want to decide? How do you want to decide who's drafting and what position they're drafting?
Oh, draft order.
Draft order. So, in draft order, in the perfect league, I'll give you my opinion. In my opinion, the perfect league, the draft order should be one. The first part should be random. So you're going to do a random order, and then based on that random order, that person gets to pick the spot he wants to draft. Yes. Am I making sense? It's not a double random or a single random. It's a random with a position, decision. So we put all the ping pong balls in a thing. Chris Allen comes up number one. Your ping pong ball comes up first.
Yeah.
You then aren't the number one picker. You're the number one person to get to pick your spot. I just think in the perfect league, again, you want as many decisions to be made as possible. Sure. And that's why I like that over. I just see a lot of people just think, no, just make it random and be done with it. I get where they say that because they just like, no, just make it random and that's the order. But again, right. I like the idea of another decision that has to be made. I mean, somebody has to decide, do I want to pick fifth, which is in my opinion right now, a sucky spot to pick this year, or do I want to pick 8th or 12th? So I like that. So is that something we could agree on, or do you have another way to determine draft order?
Betting on just random events that have nothing to do with football. And so if you could just maybe pull up a random, a horse race, or bet on, I've seen people bet on baseball games or just doing random prop bets. Okay.
But technically though, what you are saying, the original order just needs to be random somehow. How you determine that, I'm willing to tell anybody they can decide how they want to do random, however they want, but I agree. Random, because my problem would be, I agree with what you're saying. Once the league's been formed and been 3 years long, it's easier to do that kind of stuff. But I think the very first time, it's hard. Usually you're starting the league and your draft and everything's happening 3 weeks before the league's opening. And it's really hard to do something like that versus, hey, we're just going to do ping pong balls. But I agree. Once the league is set, it's easy. Those kind of things can be fun.
Yeah. I think that it just adds some fun to it, something that has barely
still
little or nothing to do with fantasy football.
It still is random.
Yeah.
So I agree. So random, and then do you think it should be random, and then that's where you pick, or random should be where you make the decision for your spot?
It should be random, and you get to pick your draft slot.
Okay, so we're going random to pick.
Yep.
Okay, so in the perfect league, we're going to do a random ping pong ball, or we're going to do something random. So 10 numbers in a hat. We're going to pull them. Everyone's going to get their number, and then we're going to say, who's number one? I'm number one. Okay, where do you want to pick? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So you get to pick your draft slot. I love it.
I love it too. There, hey, someone Facebooked it, or someone on YouTube put a comment in there, and I put it up on the screen. I learned how to do that last night. Now what Green Hornet fan has to do Cha-Cha, I don't know, but I like that. So, if you do put a comment on our YouTube channel, I do have the ability now to put your comment on our screen so that, all the great viewers out there But I would recommend, if you are out there, you need to come to LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, Legend Sports Network, join our chat room, and then you can chat live with all these people that have been making comments. And Beth drank her last beer. I sent the Rosses a 6-pack of Ohio beers because I lost a bet. She I think she enjoyed most of them. I think there was one. I don't think she liked the flyer. I think we talked about that last week. She didn't like the flyer from Warped Wing.
Okay.
But she liked a couple of the other Warped. She liked the, have you ever had the, it's called Hustle. It's from, it's out of Cincinnati. I'm trying to think the big brewery out of Cincinnati. Because it looks like it's got a baseball. It's Rheingeist. It is Rheingeist. Rheingeist Hustle. But, it's named after Pete Rose, technically, because it even has it's Hustle Pale Ale or something like that. It's a good beer. So,
okay. I don't think I might have had it, but I don't remember.
Well, it's a black can within it looks like baseballs. If you didn't know it's baseball, you have to just kind of look, and then you can tell, oh, well, that's baseballs. The logo is actually a baseball going around the can. So, named after Charlie Hustle. So, that's kind of neat. I liked all the beers. I drink Natty, though. Okay, that's right. She's a Natty light drinker, so her opinion of beer might be a little
right.
But that's because her husband won't let her buy the good stuff. So
it can get expensive.
That's why I'm glad she enjoyed the beer I sent her. So draft pick random, then you get to pick your slot. What about is there anything else draft wise that needs to come up other than that? I can't think of anything. I mean,
that's it.
Obviously, if you're online drafting, I would say the perfect league. Yeah, man, there's nothing better than a live draft, but you can't really put that in your rules, though. It's hard, if you're going to have a league. Kevin's in Hawaii. He's one of the people who was asked about being in this league. If when we get it, obviously Kevin couldn't be live to do it. So obviously, if you can do this, can't be a requirement. But if you can do live, there's nothing better than live drafting.
I mean, with Skype, with StreamYard, with Zoom,
to do things. We would. Oh, if we do it, we will host a show. And we'll have as many people live.
You can do it live,
at least. Yeah. But if you're using obviously an app or you're using,
it just will take forever, but you can do it.
Oh, and we have done it. I mean, our home league when we do our really live draft, meaning there's no app, there's no nothing. I mean, we're using little cards and
you're talking about hours.
Oh, it's an all day event.
Yeah.
We bring food, we're eating and drinking. We have to have a timeout once in a while so that people can fix a couple sandwiches. Now, my other league, we also do it live, and most people show up here at the house, and same thing, we have snacks and stuff. But we still do it on the app. So the ESPN app has the timer, and we're doing the 2-minute picks, and actually it's less than 2 hours. So it's kind of a combination. You have that, the live feel. People make a pick, and you hear people in the room go, ooh, that type thing.
That always happens.
So definitely try to make it live. I think that makes it better. But at the same time, I agree. If you can figure out how to do it, and I don't know, maybe I know draft software is getting better. And when I say draft software, I'm not talking the apps. I'm talking there are places out there now that have, instead of a draft board, you can now cast it to a TV screen. So the draft is actually on a computer, but the actual draft board is cast up on your big screen or your projector. And that's pretty cool. And some of them now, they have timers built in. And again, you're live drafting and you're using software, but it's not the app. It's not ESPN. Meaning when you're done, someone's going to have to enter it in. And some of them you can even import into some of the sites. Okay. But some of that stuff's pretty cool. And some of it, last year, I haven't tried, but supposedly last year, one of them actually incorporated like a Skype feature. So that if AW were in a room, 2 or 4 of you could be on Skype and still participate. It had software. So some of that stuff is out there. But at a minimum, if you are doing a live draft and you don't want to spend a ton of money, you can buy those draft boards now for under $20 where you get all the little stickers. That does make it fun. I mean, it is kind of a neat thing. Yeah. Around here, I don't know if you've ever done it. I know the last 4 or 5 years, both Hooters and B-Dubs, if you pre-schedule a draft at their locations, will give you a draft kit.
Yeah,
well, a private room and a draft kit. They actually will give you,
I've done it.
You'll get the big board. You'll get all the stuff. You'll get your own, Hooter girl serving your, beer and all that. And I've not done it. I've obviously heard about it, and they advertise it. But around here, both of them do that. And I think they even give you coupons for some food. And maybe I think one of them even gave you like your first order of fried pickles was free or something like that.
Yeah, B-Dubs, when we did it, this was maybe 4 years ago the last time I did it. It was at the Buffalo Wild Wings down at the Town and Country Shopping Center. That's over in like Kettering, Centerville.
Right.
But they gave you the private room in the back. It had its own, like you had your own server. It had projectors up front so you could like hook up your laptop and have the board actually projected onto the screen. You could use their draft kit that they gave you. And then all the food, I think, because it was assuming that you were bringing at least 20 to 30 people, all your food was 10% off. And they also gave you vouchers for to come back. I think it was like maybe $100 in vouchers that you could split and give it to all the people in your league to come back another time. It was a hell of a deal.
Right. Yeah. So that'd be fun. Now, and I mean, and you have a private room, then you're obviously able to have, be a little more loud and have fun and and that's kind of, now, like I said, our big live draft, we have a big meal, and the place where we have it, they have a pool, and it's just it truly is an 8-hour all day event.
It's doing that stuff. You can't beat an experience like that.
The problem is everybody, the first, unfortunately, we've yet to have the perfect season where everybody goes the next year. We always seem to lose one player at least. So we get that new first guy always shows up and goes, "What do you mean all day?" I told my girlfriend, we start drafting at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I told my girlfriend I'd be home by 12:30. You're like, you better text her back. Because they just don't understand.
Right.
I do a Vegas draft. Kevin, that would be awesome. I mean, I think that would, that kind of stuff would be cool. Hell, I'd love to do a Hawaii draft. Kevin's in Hawaii. We could just fly out to Hawaii, a draft, and fly home, just a long weekend.
Sure.
That would be a blast. But my point would be, I don't think if you have the right group of people, the location isn't as important as just doing it.
No, it could be like in somebody's basement. I mean,
just the live part is pretty neat. Get out there and and do it. And Beth said that JR, Slice, they do it on a back deck with a big poster board and all that. But I'm telling you, I have played with some of the software now where you can do it on a computer. And what's nice is people come up to the computer, make their picks, and do a wife swapping draft. Okay, Cha-Cha. I mean, whatever makes your drafts fun.
That's not what I'm into, but hey, you do you.
Well, hey, I definitely would want the number one pick. That's all I'm saying. I'm not picking 12th in Cha-Cha's wife swap draft. I'm not sure I want to, I want the number one pick. The Hawaii draft, Beth Ross is in. Beth is saying she's in for a Hawaii draft. She'll let JR. So she's going to let JR go to Hawaii without her, have a draft, and come home. I think that's a great wife right there.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
Right, that's a great wife. But I'm just saying, some of that software now is pretty cool, and it gets better every year where you can, literally still do a live draft and be, and be electronic. So, so that would be my thing. Try to do it live. If not, you know what? Obviously, if you're using the websites, I think that's my second option of a draft. If not live, I do think I would look into some kind of draft software other than the apps. The apps, I find the draft part pretty lame. The timers, you can't control most of the settings. They give you 30 seconds to 2 minutes. If you're going to have fun, you make it a little longer, or have penalties or do things. So look into some of the other draft software, maybe, if you're going to do it online. And then obviously the last thing is, if you're doing it online, make sure as a commissioner that I think Cha-Cha did one, everyone worries that, and again, I don't get it. We wait 6 months for the draft, and there's people in the draft room that are like, if you can't pick in 30 seconds, you shouldn't be picking. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah, I hate that.
I said it as many seconds as the app will let me. That's what I put. Let the people make some decisions.
Yeah.
If you're going to be in the league, and if you're going to be in this league, which is going to be the perfect league, come prepared to spend some time and allow people to make some decisions,
right,
and not rush those decisions.
Yeah.
So so live draft first. If you're going to do a web draft, look at some of the software that's out there, because they have a lot more options to them than what you get with the apps. And then obviously the last thing is the app. But as a good commissioner, set the timer up. Make sure that you're watching. If something goes wrong, pause the draft. Don't let people I'm a big believer in the commissioners don't own the leagues. But True. Every once in a while, the commissioner does need to force himself on the league a little bit. Yeah. And to me, the draft time is a good commissioner should just allow it to happen and not rush anybody and not. It's unfortunately I've seen it. Even the commissioner's like, yeah, as long as it takes, go ahead and pick what you need. Blah blah blah. I'll pause it for a second. But there'll always be those 4 people. This is bullshit. I got things to do. I can't believe you can't. You know what?
Well, then let them tilt into oblivion and make the wrong pick.
Right. We wait 6 months to draft. Why can't we sit there for a little bit and draft? So
drink your beer.
The last thing tonight, and we're already over a little bit, and this one, I don't know, and that's going to be snake draft versus auction. I really think in a home league, doing an auction's a mistake.
Yes.
If you're doing a home/family league, auction is a mistake.
Yeah.
But it does force mistakes. Meaning there's a lot of people that if they don't know what they're doing, you're going to get a lot of people making mistakes in an auction draft.
Right.
But the argument to me really comes down to if it's a competitive league or a industry league, I could see where you could do either. I kind of not, relevant one way or the other. But definitely you need to tell people plenty far ahead of time because, again, if it's an auction draft, not that preparation you don't prepare either way, but, auction drafts do require a little more studying and some stuff, and you definitely have. Do you have a preference?
I prefer snake drafts. That's just personal preference, though.
All right. I just don't. I don't think either one probably dictates what makes it a perfect league. I think your league can be good either way.
Sure.
Especially in a competitive league, most people, 10 good players should have no problem doing an auction draft.
They shouldn't. No.
Yeah. And it does. It changes things a little bit. So. I'd be curious there in the chat room. We're almost done, but I'd be curious as we go on or in the next week if people really have a preference auction. Cha-Cha is saying the auction is much better if it's a wife swapping draft.
Well, my goodness.
I don't know. I could see where one wife would maybe, she might clean out somebody.
Exactly. Somebody might lose all their money.
And then obviously you find out real early who brought the best draft pick to the party, I guess.
Absolutely.
I don't know. What about a blind auction? Maybe a blind auction wife swap draft would be the one, where we just have to hear, we just get to hear the owners' wives talk and then pick. And then at that point, I'm guessing once I know mine, once she starts talking, people will just put their money in their pocket. So I don't know. And I know there's something about saying, you use the word snake draft, with wife swap, and that has a weird meaning too. So Cha-Cha, we'll have to work on your wife swap draft there.
Yeah.
All right. We got a little farther.
Part
in
4
our
coming.
Luckily we did start this plenty of time. We'd have been in trouble if we did this the week before. Now, obviously I figured once we did this, when we get pretty close, meaning when we get the end of July or something, we might do one show where we do nothing but go down this list.
Okay.
Tell people what we came up with, and maybe that'll be the start of our league or something. We'll say, here it is. Here's our rules. Here's what we came up with. So we obviously have a few more weeks because next week we're going to be talking scoring, and that should obviously take up all of our time.
Yeah.
So we'll talk scoring, and then we'll get into bylaws and some of the final thing. So at least one, probably I'm saying 2, maybe 3 more weeks of our 96 part series here.
It won't take that long.
I know we're getting closer. I don't think we have enough weeks. We don't have enough weeks to do 96. Chris, thanks for coming out tonight.
Always.
At some point, leaving me hanging for my 15 minutes of rant on Tom Seaver, but I did my best. I did have a few other things, but we'll talk about that later.
All right.
We'll come up next week. Chris, what do you got going on? Where can people find you?
A couple articles, or at least one out for with 4 for 4. It's also on Sports Illustrated on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. That's been out. I'm going to have another piece coming out here shortly. Hopefully, I'll have it submitted by Saturday, and it'll be out early next week on N'Keal Harry. I'm doing a profile piece on him. But then after that, it's Fantrax. I'm working with them on their NFL draft kit. So all of that content should start to come out later on this month and into July. So looking forward to that as well. But you can find me on Twitter right there.
Yeah. Keep going. Right.
At Chris on FFWX. You can find me on Twitter.
And I'm Easy Kill out of Fantasy Fan on Twitter. You can tweet me questions or your league settings or anything like that. Yeah. So that'll be great. But you can find me in the chat room most of the time at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. We had a blast. Chat room was actually pretty active. Thanks for the Rosses, Beth and JR. Cha-Cha, who now is saying sloppy seconds in a swapping draft. And scoring is optional. Scoring is optional in his wife swap league.
All right.
We had Kevin earlier from Hawaii was also out there. So appreciate the chat room people. It's amazing.
Everybody came out tonight.
It's just amazing that league settings, some people I've been in leagues where you can tell no thought was involved at all. They were the default settings of ESPN, not one setting, but if you really get real fantasy people together, league settings is almost as complicated as who you're going to draft. I mean, it can get pretty
you can get into the weeds about this stuff, man.
Yeah. And then everybody has their own. And I didn't even get into the other question because the other, actually it was JR. He was just bitching. He thinks high scoring leagues are wrong. He thinks PPR and all that. Yeah. There you go. Way to go, Fantrax guy. Get him all wound up. I agree. In America, points are king. Yes. That's right. We love
give me 200 points per week.
Right. We don't care. Give us some points, baby. I mean, who doesn't love playing Monopoly where you put the $500 bill in the parking place? So I love Monopoly is one of those other things where there's this huge rule book, but every place I've ever played Monopoly, there's all the home rules. Everyone's done their own little weird rules.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yes, who doesn't love when that $500 bill goes? So if you land on the free parking or whatever, the community chest, whatever it is, you kind of get that money in the middle. It's like, yes, baby, give me that 500. We just love points. We don't even care if we win. I just love points. If we score 198 and get beat by somebody who scored 200, I can still go to work and say like, hey, I scored 198 points, so we got to be doing something, right? Right. Points are king. All right. Yes. Chris, thanks for coming out tonight. Everybody, we will catch you next Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Lenny will be on tomorrow talking baseball at 9. Arnie or Cha-Cha or Lou, somebody comes on at 10. Somebody comes on at 11 now. There's like 3 hours of baseball talk in the morning. JJ at 2 and everybody else that I'm terrible at saying. Kevin from Hawaii is on Thursdays. So he's on tomorrow at 3. So he caught both my shows this week. So I need to prop his show a little bit. So Kevin in Hawaii. So Chris, thanks for coming out and say goodnight.